that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype.
Yo, hello and welcome back to the Apostles of Anime show. I am your host Ian along with Isaiah.
What's up?
And Gavin.
What's going on?
And I'm really stoked for today's episode actually because we are going to be reviewing in full the Boruto manga. Yeah, you heard me correct. That's manga. We're actually upgrading our weebness, and we've now transitioned into some manga, so we've hit that elite level. We are the upper 6, the upper 3. I'm really stoked about it though because there's a lot of fun things to come of this. So basically, what we wanted to do was kind of broaden our horizons and be like, hey, let's talk about something besides just the animated show of everything for once. So let's pick a couple manga that we want to read or that we've looked into already, and then we'll discuss them. So Boruto is one of them, obviously. We also want to read Demon Slayer and Berserk as well. So those will be 3 that, hopefully we'll be talking about in the future. And then if you guys have any other suggestions, by the way, feel free to throw them our way. If you're like, hey, this manga is really good, I think you should read it, and we all vibe with it. Once we try it out, then it could be something that we talk about in a future episode as well. So I'm really excited to get into this today. And at the time of recording, Boruto currently has 44 chapters. So when this episode comes out, the date is March 25th. So if you are listening to this at a later date, which most of the time happens, just know that's where we are currently. So if there's any additional chapters out and we miss them, that is the reason why. But anyway, without further ado, let's talk about some Boruto manga, some differences we found from the anime, obviously, which are pretty extreme. If we liked it, some of our favorite parts, characters, etc., and some things that we noticed in it. I will say one thing right off the bat: they do not bullshit when it comes to getting this story along the rails. It's like the train's going like 1,000 miles an hour, dude. They cut right to the point, man. Like right to the point. I know, Gavin, you were saying something along the lines of that you preferred that. I was just curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Did that take you by surprise? Because it took me by surprise.
And it's funny because not being an avid manga reader, the only other thing I really read was Berserk and a couple intro chapters in between of different shows that I was interested in. When I sat down and actually read through this whole thing in entirety to the point that it's at now, I remember as soon as I was done, I hit up the group chat and I was like, yo, does all manga just not have any filler whatsoever? Because that was really fucking amazing. And Isaiah's like, yeah, no, that's manga. You fucking idiot. Obviously, it makes sense because filler is really, they just caught up to the manga or whatever reason and they just need to kill time more or less. And I'm like, wow, this actually is more enjoyable to read because it's straight from the horse's mouth. You're not beating around the bush. You're not doing stupid shit. It's the story and the story only. And I feel like it just keeps you more on the edge of your seat as you're watching it, or reading it, I should say. And I really like that a lot. And I felt like even from the couple episodes of the anime that I watched from Boruto, I really actually fucking hated it. And I remember when it first came out, the first couple episodes, me and Isaiah, I made it a point to watch it, and I also made it a point to never watch it again because I thought it was really I legitimately thought it was fucking stupid. I did not like it at all. And, Isaiah was just kind of the little bird on my shoulder saying, yeah, fucking read the manga, you stupid idiot. Don't be a cuck. And I'm like, nah, fuck you. This is bullshit. And now that I sat through and read it, I'm like, yo, this is fucking fire. I don't know what to do with myself. And I literally still don't know what to do with myself because, dude, all right, Isaiah, spread some light on this. You go. I need your word. I need your words of wisdom right now because
man, I can't wait.
Literally, I just don't even know how to explain it. I need just the sage's words of wisdom. So give them to me, Isaiah.
I don't know. It's fucking dope. I don't know.
Standing ovation.
Really
round of applause. He's a fucking genius.
Well, I'm just glad that you fuckers read it because I've been gushing about it forever, and you guys been like, yeah, whatever. And now you know. Now you're in the club. So
it's pretty dope. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It really is.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, and I don't mean to sound like snarky when I say this, because I really did thoroughly enjoy it. But I mean, really not much competition going up against its anime counterpart. So I kind of went into this thinking that I was going to like it more than the anime. You know, and I did. I do like how they cut the bullshit, how it gets just onto the main story, because if anyone knows me or most people, I would wager, I fucking hate filler. You know, it really just sucks balls. So
I mean, you're never
really
gonna
like
find manga with filler, period, because like that's
Exactly.
an anime only edition.
Yeah.
So they're really like, there's nothing. Plus, like, this is a monthly run, so like,
This is true.
there's literally no excuse to put anything but the actual, like, he has a month in between volume or chapters to, like, you know what I mean. There's no reason why it should be anything other than just story.
Yeah.
But
now I will say though, to play devil's advocate to myself, right? Because I wanted to, like, with the good comes some bad, and you know, you kind of compromise. And I will say that I do appreciate how they, you know, the story progresses at a quick rate. But I will say that because of the fact that there's no filler, obviously, because this is like straight from the source, I will say there's one thing that I noticed, and that it's side characters for the most part seem to really take a back seat in the manga, like as compared to the show. And again, they have more time to flesh out those side characters because they're so, you know, it's just like, okay, we got to wait for this manga to come with a new chapter. So, you know, we're going to do that and all. But I would say, like, in this especially, you definitely, you get some backstory to, like, or some, like, relevant screen time, if you want to call it, to, you know, like Team 7, right? Like, so, like, the new Team 7, that is, like Sadara and sort of Mitsuki. Even Mitsuki kind of takes a slight backseat, not too much. But like, I would say some of the other characters, like after watching the show, drastic difference, right? So like, they go in the show, again, because they have all this time, they're going over like all of the kids, right? And it's like, I don't even think as far as the manga is, that Rock Metal Lee or whatever, he doesn't even exist. Like, some of the characters just straight up don't exist, and then the ones that do, it's like, it's very backseat. So I was actually curious to hear Gavin's thoughts on that, because for me, I don't really give too much of a shit, to be honest. I kind of like, you know, the main four or however, you know, however many handful of characters, like, that's fine with me. But I was curious, like, if that was something you noticed, and if you had any thoughts on it.
I did, and actually, it's weird because as much as a side character lover that I am, I actually liked the way that they're kind of like, they're steering not in their direction, but they still are referenced. Like, I actually really liked how with Mitsuki, that even their own teammates didn't know his parents, or parent Orochimaru, and it like kind of, you learned a couple chapters later, or a couple chapters in, they're like, oh yeah, you know, my dad's Orochimaru, when fucking Boruto got, or somebody got like the dad or Orochimaru's card in that game that they play, and they're like, I think Sadara was like, ew, like, who the fuck is this? Like, he's disgusting. And Mitsuki was like, oh yeah, that's my dad, you fucking like cock, more or less. And they're like, oh wait, that's your dad, you know? And he's just like, yeah, don't you know why there's a fucking like snake always wrapped around my body, you know? Like, and I kind of enjoyed that, because it's not giving you like a direct story per se on how, you know, Mitsuki came to be in terms of like his childhood and everything, but like, it is still paying homage to older characters. And even though they're not going in detail on it, it's kind of nice that they aren't completely just there, you know? And I really hope, or what I'm expecting is, at a later date in the manga itself, they're kind of gonna go over it more and maybe give some more story to it. And I could be wrong, because I never really obviously read something in this, you know, genre, or specifically this. I mean, it's only 44 chapters in, like, we don't know, but I'd expect that they are going to kind of expand a little bit more on side characters as it goes on, and I really hope it does. But for the at the point that we're at now, it actually didn't bother me, and I kind of enjoyed it, because I feel like it's just leading up to something greater in the future, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if I'm wording it properly, but I feel like they're holding out now, but in the future they're going to be more of a presence, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if Isaiah has any insight on that, if it's not the case, or that's what the anime does differently, or what, but I don't know. That's my personal opinion on it.
No, well, what, are you talking about side characters, or are you just talking about the story in general?
More,
characters, I would
yeah, the
say,
side
right?
characters and how they like are integrated in the story. Like they're not as relevant now in it, but I feel like in the future they probably are. Like obviously it's not going to focus on them specifically. It's about Boruto, like literally. But I feel like they're going to give more insight on maybe a little bit about their childhood or their upbringing, or some parents. Like Shikamaru was pretty like relevant in it, and you learn like about his son who was literally just like him, which I totally fucks with. Like I just love that whole character in general. I don't care if it's reskin copy pasta. I just love, like, it's very refreshing getting that like perspective back in like that generation. And I don't know, I feel like they're gonna go in on him in the future, or at least I hope so.
Yeah, I mean they definitely could. I'm sure as the story progresses, if there's a reason to involve them, that they will. But like again, something I guess that the mangas generally do is like the story comes first, right? So if there's no reason for a character to be in a story, they're not going to be in a story. And because that story usually centers around the main characters, you're definitely going to get a lot more of Team 7 than anybody else.
Yeah.
But supposedly like that's what the anime is for.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. That's a good point, though, that Isaiah brings up, where it's like they'll come if the story requires that they're there, right?
Yeah.
So that is something where it's like when you're chopping off the if you're taking the fat off the sides when you're trying to or sculpt this story, you know what I mean? Like you just have to make sacrifices, or you don't even have to call them sacrifices. They might be necessary cuts, but not everyone gets to have their cake and eat it too, which was interesting though, because like I didn't care all that much really, but I was like, I mean, like some people that enjoy that, like that is not even a thing. They're like, nope, we ain't skipping a freaking beat. Like we're going on to the next thing, which too, I would say this is one thing that I do appreciate about anime though. That Momoshiki fight was like really cut down in the manga comparatively to the anime.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why it was so
which is
hyped when
like,
it came out, because
yeah,
read
man,
the manga and they were like, "Whoa, this isn't the shit that like," or like, that's like anime's not its job, but like, well, it is, because like that's the main difference between the mediums, right? Is one is a book and one is a visual art form. So like, people who read the manga generally won't watch an anime unless a dope fight or a really hype moment from the manga is coming up, because that's like the payoff for anime. That's what you want, is to see those pages literally come to life. So yeah.
So with that though, does it bother you that it's not what happens in the manga and it is changed to suit a different audience? Like does that
hell no that Momoshiki fight was badass.
Well, I'm not talking just Momoshiki, I'm talking like in general, where they're like changing it from the blatant source material.
So like, to go back to the side character things, it's like if you want to use that as a point, it's like, oh well, the anime fleshes out the side characters a lot more than the manga does, and it's like, yeah, but do we need it? Arguably, most of the side character shit that we've gotten from the anime is like, you could have told me that in a sentence, right? That could have been like a one-off thing that like a parent mentions to me and like now I know. You don't need to spend 5 episodes coming up with some random filler arc that teaches me that Shikadai is like not all jazzed about like, you know what I mean? It's a waste of time. It's a literal waste of time. So
Well, no, keep going. I'll add on.
I was just gonna say, like, so if the manga or the anime changes something for the better, right? Like, for example, that fight scene, or like if it adds more to a scene than was initially there, then like, yeah, I'm all for it. But like, if arguably the manga does what it needs to do, you know what I mean? If you just literally adapt it, like you're good.
Yeah, what I appreciate about it is it's almost like a video game. You have those random AI, and then you have the essential AI, who they're relevant to the story, but it also makes it more immersive, It's not just these people and everybody else is there to be there. When you learn about these side characters and you're like, hey, they have relevancy in this world. This is their relevancy, and they might be living different lives and pursuing different things, but they are just as much people, They're not just kind of like images on a page that like you just kind of see do dope shit in the background, or maybe do like a little side cut scene. It's like, no, these are actual people that are ingrained in this world. Like there's a purpose to them, and I think that's what I appreciate in side characters, and why I look for that is how immersive of this medium can you make me feel like in everything. And I just feel like it gives not only the manga but an anime more depth to just the worlds when they flesh out more of the people living in it that are like shown constantly over and over again. And that's what I really like when I watch or read things. But right now, what right now with Boruto is there's so much happening that I feel like it doesn't matter that I'm not like learning so much about the side characters, because everything is boom on to the next thing, boom on to the next thing, boom. Like there's no break, so it's like you're not stopping to smell the roses, and you don't have to because so much is happening.
Yeah, I feel love like that, man. I love that where it's just like we're just cutting the fat and getting right to the point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great. And you know what it is too, because that happens, and obviously because this is a manga, so you're reading it, and some of these fights can't hit as hard as when they're animated and stuff like that. I find myself with this, and just in general, I feel when reading manga, not that I've read much, but I find that I have more fun in learning like the identities and for this manga specifically, like learning the motives and identities of characters almost more than anything else. Like what had me so excited to keep reading this was to be like, okay, what is Jigen's, motivation, right? And then when you find out that like he's a vessel himself, and so you're like, oh shit, so like this guy was with Kayuga, right? Or I guess, right, because they come in pairs, and then like finding out Koji, like who is he, or like now the scientist from the Kara clan has like defected, so it's like, so what's your deal, right? And it's like finding like what motivates these characters and like who they really are and things like that was what I was really the most excited about when reading. And I would say that's what would be keeping me as reading would be that's what I'm excited for. Like where we just left off, Amato, the scientist, just essentially knows everyone from Konoha and is like, okay, I'm gonna defect, but then like and then the chapter ends and you're like, well, why? You know what I mean? Like what's going on behind the scenes here? That I think that was really cool for me. That was one of the highlights of reading this. So
mine was actually what's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think like the story, like in the manga, does a really good job with like setups and payoffs. There's a lot of times in the anime where like, I mean, again, if we're talking, most of it is like filler, but even if we're talking about the stuff that is from the manga or said to be canon, a lot of it is just like ends up falling flat, right? Where it's like the manga does this really well with adapting or utilizing the previous generation of characters. So like Naruto's generation, there's a lot of characters who not even specifically like from the Leaf Village or from Konoha, but like just characters that we know from Naruto's generation, from his story, are reutilized into this story, but in a way that makes sense. So like, for example, you have Ao, the guy from the Mist Village, who during the Fourth Great Ninja War, he was the right hand to the Mizukage. And like, it was really cool to see how the idea that like the Fourth Great Ninja War, which is a war first and foremost, doesn't like leave everybody, not everybody gets off as well as like a lot of people from the Leaf Village did. And like, granted, they had substantially more help, let's say, than most places, but like Ao specifically was completely broken by it, right? Watching all the people that he considered brothers in arms and comrades die really fucked him up, and it made him like lose his sense of purpose or and so I just think like that stuff like that is really nice, because it takes, again, characters and that you're familiar with and like readapts them, but the story still makes sense. Everything, again, with the manga, everything is in purpose to the story. We don't just throw characters in here. We don't just use or say things because you know them or it's cool. Everything has to work in one like motion, in one goal, and that's to make sure that the story continues like its flow.
Yes, and I really liked Ao specifically because of the relevance he had with Boruto, especially when, obviously, Katasuke, when he gave Boruto the ninja tool to use in the Chunin exam, and that was like more of not a brainwash, but like his mind was being like altered more or less from like Ao, from whatever his purpose was in dealing with the the Karma Mark guys, but he was like, he still has his morals in place when he was on the train with Boruto and friends when they were taking the scientist back to wherever the fuck it was, like his actual place of work, and he brought out like the screwdriver, and Boruto's like, yeah, I hate ninja tools, you know, they're fucking stupid, and then he'd like just bring like the scientist guy was working on, or like, you know, tinkering with his arm and shit because he lost it in the war, and he literally like grabs the screwdriver and he puts it to Boruto's neck, and he's like, yeah, this is like, what is this? This is an inanimate object. It's not about the tools itself. It's how you use them. And that was like the eye-opening moment for Boruto, where it's like, yeah, you make a lot of sense. And then 4 chapters later, you know, you look at him as not Boruto, but Ao as a character, where it's like, yeah, what you were just preaching on the train, look at you now, you know, and look what you're doing and your perspective. And like that, I needed that as a reader, because it just like, it encompassed everything about what had happened in the past that you mentioned with the whole war, and how it changed people's perspectives and minds on how the world works around them. And you can take any simple idea, and it just matters on how you apply said idea. And it doesn't matter if you think you're the nicest person in the world or not. It's when it comes down to, you know, what you're trying to fulfill, whether it's a dream or a duty, it's like, you can eat your own words. And it was very humbling to see Boruto grow. And in that moment, like, I just loved him even more as a character. It's like, this is what I came here to see. You know?
Boruto or
yeah.
Ao?
No, Boruto.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to bring up, actually. And actually 2 things. So number 1, it's like, I don't know if it pisses me off or I like it, that it's so crazy that in this manga, it's like intended for children, I guess I would say, like, because there's like very, very basic life lessons, but yet there's like these super deep life lessons too, right? And like there's these really deep things, like going into Isaiah and your whole example with Ao, right? That's a perfect one, right? Where it's like this war-torn man who is essentially half cyborg at this point, because he's, you know, lost limbs and eyes and all that kind of shit, and he's seen people die, and it's like it's deep, right? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, not for the faint of heart. And, you know, he inevitably ends up dying, right? And like, there's a lot to that. Like we could peel the layers back to that, and you're like, wow. And then it's like crazy to me where it's like that. And then like, you know, the next moment could be like, I don't know, they're like talking about like trading card games or whatever. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't want that card. I need to earn it. You know what I mean? Like, and not that that's less important, I would say. And not because, you know, because it's not so sad or serious that, like, you know, it's not to be looked at in a lighter sense. But I just found that kind of comical while reading this, where it was like, you'd see like these very like simplistic lessons, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, trying to gear towards like children or whoever, young adults or whatever. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden it swaps to like this really hardcore shit. And I'm like, wow, it's like, it's crazy how they could hit all beats. And like, I don't know. It's just interesting. But I will say too, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, I guess that's the point, right? Because it is geared towards both audiences, and the characters in the show are literal children, right? They're growing up, and this is their like coming of age story. So like, yeah, there's lessons in there that are for, you know, I guess if you want to, I don't even know if I would consider them solely for children, because to be honest, any shonen you look at has those kinds of lessons, and they can be pretty applicable in any stage of your life.
For sure.
But like, I think it does, again, comparison to the anime, like the manga does that really well, where it's like, well, that makes sense because that's real life. Real life is full of heavy-ass fucking moments and then stupid, light, silly, comical ones. And I think the manga balances that really well, where it's like the anime has literally turned it into like a slice. It's a different show. Like, it's a different show. It's like almost on the other end of the spectrum, where it's too much light and comical stuff. And it's like, there's no stakes. There's no, like, one of the things that I love about the manga, specifically with the story, is the idea of like the karma mark and how it connects like Boruto to Kawaki to Jigen, because one of the craziest scenes, you know, in the manga recently for me was when Jigen literally just rolls up into Naruto's house, like warps in there in 2 seconds, and he's like, yo, what's up? I need your shit. And like, it's this idea of like, again, it's a direct contrast to the anime. Like in the manga, technically, if you think about it, like nobody is safe. Right? At any second, somebody could roll up into the Leaf Village and just start stomping on people's faces. And like, you know what I mean? And so there's like this sense of, they even say it when, in the most recent chapter, when after like the kids come back and everybody is safe, Shikamaru was like, yeah, that, like, I'm glad that shit worked out, but we had no idea that it would have ended that way. And also, like, we now know that Jigen can literally roll up in here basically whenever the fuck he wants. So, like,
yeah, for real,
shit,
dude.
like, he's like, all you fuckers need to be on lockdown, like, 24. Like, we need to establish, like, what the fuck's going on. He's like, because nobody can really fuck with these dudes other than Naruto and Sasuke. So, like, there's a whole village that we have, like, and it reestablishes stakes well enough, like, that I'm always, every chapter or every page, I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Because literally anything could happen. Because it's not even just Jigen. You have Kashi and Koji, and really not all of them, but like most of the members of Karma can get into the village like without a whole lot of complication. So it's like the only thing holding them back is like the story, right? Or if there's a reason for them not to show. But like compared to the anime where it's like, I just feel like there's no stakes. Like nothing's happening where I'm like genuinely concerned for any of these characters at any point, because I'm like, it's fine. Like they're gonna bunk a robber on the head and everybody's gonna laugh, and it's like, that's not, again, comparison, like that's not the manga.
No, I agree with you. I think the other point I was trying to make too, with Gavin said, I felt much more of a connection to Boruto himself in the manga. And again, for all the reasons that Isaiah has been describing between the manga and the show, so I really don't need to go in too deep with that. But like, again, the manga just does such a better job at like the characters that it does focus on and the ones that are important. It does a much better job at making me feel attached to those characters. So it might be a less amount of characters, but again, in the anime, I feel myself stretched thin sometimes, and it's like, like with the manga, like Boruto's a pain in the ass, don't get me wrong, and he's definitely like fucking an idiot, sometimes, like, and immature, which is the point, right? Like you're supposed to dislike him a little bit in the beginning, but I did kind of get behind him as a character. And a lot of times in the anime, because I watched about 80 episodes in the anime, and that's filler and all up through until the old guy starts making like a rock army or whatever, right? And that's where I got, right? And like, so that's a good amount. It's 80 fucking episodes, and in that time, I never got behind Boruto as a character. I always felt that I was like waiting for Naruto and Sasuke to show up. Like that was the show, right? Like that was the only highlight. And in this manga, like, although it was awesome to see Naruto and Sasuke because they're goats, but like I also felt that I was invested in Boruto's story as well, and Kawaki's, right? And the gang. So it was like, I think that did a really good job of doing that, and I was pleasantly surprised that it did, because it made me appreciate Boruto as a character that much more, and like I'm rooting for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what actually made me not like Boruto as an anime when I watched it, is because even with the manga, the first, and I'll know it specifically, the first 4 chapters of it, I really did not like it at all, because you could not sell me that Naruto was the father that he was in the beginning of the show, and Boruto as his child. Like, there was something where when I first started watching Boruto, and you're like, okay, this is Naruto and his son's relationship, you could not sell to me that that is how it would have turned out. Like, Boruto said it better himself. He's like, look, Naruto's, like, he said the 3rd Hokage or whatever died when Naruto was born. Like, he knows what it's like to grow up without a father. So he, of all people, should know what it feels like to not have that presence in your son's life, and like that yearning for just a mentor or anything. And granted, he found it in Sasuke, but even from the beginning of the manga, it was like, oh, Naruto sent him like an email when he was taking the Chunin exams, and he's like, oh, good job, like, you did good, after Shikamaru came into his room, or came to Naruto and was like, oh, hey, your son's in the Chunin exam, he made it to the next test, and Naruto's like, oh, let me send him an email real fast, It's just like, that just to me wasn't Naruto, just as a character. Like, literally, I feel like his trademark is that, similar to Boruto, is everybody that they meet, they almost befriend, and they're like family. They know each other since the beginning. And I'm like, how can you have this disconnect from these two characters who are very much like this, and they're literally related? Like, how are you going to tell me that Naruto, of all people, is going to be a shitty father when his character literally goes against, like, that whole thought, And I tried to play devil's advocate in any way, and, he didn't know what it was like to grow up without a father, so he didn't know how to be that fatherly presence or whatever. Like, I tried to give into it, but I still couldn't. Like, you couldn't grab me on it. And once Boruto had that realization where he's like, oh, my dad, was under this pressure of the village, this and that, like, maybe I need to be more understanding and easy of him. I'm like, all right, now you're kind of getting out of the I hate you phase and like I don't believe Naruto phase. And now that they're building that relationship, I feel like it should have been there more or less from the beginning, but it's more bearable, I felt, in the manga than reading.
I think you hit it on the head there, Gavin. I think you hit it on the head with the last sentence that you said. It's more bearable. I do think that some of the things that they're trying to show in the anime and in the manga, they do it too. They make sense, right? Like Boruto is a child, right? Like that's just an established fact. So clearly his mindset and outlook in the world is going to be much different. And us coming, not that we're old, but we're in our 20s, and us coming from an outside source are going to be like, why are you being such an ignorant little brat? Like your father has gone through all this shit, and it's like, if you only knew, and this, that, and the third. But like it makes sense the way Boruto feels, even though it's misplaced. But I do think that the anime makes it like way over the top, where it's like you just can't stand this fucking kid.
Well,
whereas
even
in
then,
the manga,
it wasn't as much
Boruto
for me. Like I wasn't mad at Boruto. I was mad on how they portrayed Naruto with it. I'm like, I didn't see this as Naruto like being like, I didn't see Naruto being a father would like turn out like this, and it was a hard sell that like, oh yeah, he never shows up at home, he sends shadow clones to like his kids' events or birthday parties. I'm like, to me that's not Naruto. Like, bro, I rode for like almost 1,000 episodes literally analyzing this fucking character. You're not telling me that this is Naruto at heart. Like, it's not, and it really pissed me off because I'm like, this is not him as a father. Like, you cannot sell this.
Does
to
he
me
do that in the manga
because,
though? Doesn't he do the shadow thing? Does he?
No,
do
he
that in the
does.
manga?
He does. He does the shadow clone, and that's why I'm like, that's not Naruto. Like, if anything, he would have the shadow clone like doing the work while he's at his children's events. Like for not having a family his whole life. Come on.
I think the thing to understand is that like, I think. So you mentioned it before, where it's like you try to get behind the idea that like Naruto might not have the best perception of like what a family is or like what it means to like be with a family. Naruto he doesn't. I don't think it is a hard sell at all, because I think Naruto, nothing he's done or did, per se, if we're talking about the manga specifically, with his family or Boruto, was like ill-placed, or none of it was because he didn't want to spend time with his family. If you think about it, to Naruto, literally the entire village is his family. So and this isn't like, a good thing, quote unquote, because it's like something that he should come to realize at some point. But Naruto probably that special, let's call it separation that you would have when you think about or talk to your family versus other people doesn't exist for Naruto, because he didn't grow up with that, right? It's kind of the same thing, like if we're talking about why Sasuke has such an emotional block when it comes to his family. These two didn't grow up like learning or understanding what any of that kind of stuff means or how it feels or if you're supposed to do it, so they don't know how to do it, right? They're literally grown people who essentially have the most emotionally distant like defects a person could have.
I get that, but I also think that's complete bullshit, because you're not going to tell me that and it comes with reason, because and Boruto says it himself. Naruto knows this feeling and knows it the best. Like you just said, I agree with. He of all people should know what it's like to be alienated, not have this family, even if you don't know what that means. To now like there's a point where Naruto needs to learn, now he has a family, it's his responsibility, and the fact that his son understands that better than Naruto himself, I can't buy it. Like, I could see for Sasuke, but like, I just think, I'm not even chopping it to bad writing. I'm like, I don't believe it's within his character to act this way. Sasuke, I can see 100%. I understand it. But for Naruto, I can't. Like, I understand the reasoning, like what they're getting at with it. It's just, as a character, I can't. Like, I don't resonate with that. I don't see it there. And from the beginning of Naruto, like, I don't know. It's just, that's my opinion on it.
Well,
I see what you're saying. I just don't agree with it.
We have clearly very passionate opinions on this particular subject, but let's move on. We're going to have to agree to disagree. Because there are valid points all around. But I will say that I do think that Naruto, even though he is Hokage at this point, still has room to grow. I mean, we all do, right? As people.
100%.
But Naruto, there are things that he can still learn because he's not perfect. Anyway, moving on though. Let's bring up let's get into controversial shit because we're not the AoA show if we don't say something that's gonna piss somebody off. Are there any? I had a question for you guys. Are there any characters within this manga that you dislike, and why?
Dislike in which way? Are you talking like
anyway,
allies,
you could just
enemies?
Yeah. Like anyone. Like, is there a reason where you think you might dislike someone,
Honestly,
or maybe just not vibe with them?
For me, no, because that's what I've liked so much about this manga is so far at the point we're at, I'm able to resonate with every character, and my only contention was with Naruto and Boruto with their relationship. And once they kind of had that under the water and like they had that understanding, after that, I felt I could really enjoy the story, and after that, I really liked all the characters that were introduced, even enemies. I liked the whole world that they have built around them. And at this point that we're at, I don't have like a hatred or a dislike for any character specifically. I don't know if you guys share any differences on that.
No, yeah,
But
I was just asking.
For me,
I was
no.
curious. How about you,
For
Isaiah?
me, no.
No, I mean, I again, when you were talking about like the manga maybe not utilizing every single character in the arsenal well enough, but like the ones that it does, really fleshing them out. There's characters in the manga who I like, but specifically don't like their anime counterparts. And I feel like the manga does such a better job of like grounding all these characters. There's never been a moment in the manga where like somebody has said something or somebody has said some stuff repeatedly enough to where like they show up and I'm like, fuck this nigga, dude, why is he here? Because it's like they're all like, every character is just written well. Every character has established like motivations and goals, and nobody is like doing or saying anything that like doesn't work towards the story here, or like no character is on, not screen, but like is on page or whatever just for the sake of being there. Every page where somebody is talking to somebody else, there's a reason that conversation is happening, and each of those characters has a valid reason for being in that moment and having that conversation.
Couldn't agree more.
Fair
What
enough.
about you, Ian? Because you definitely have something then.
No, you all know that I'm definitely the biggest dickhead when it comes to just judging anything. So kind of,
No, because I'm interested now.
No,
Let's go.
It's really nothing crazy. I was just kind of fucking around, making you guys think it was. But I will say, if I'm talking about something that kind of inherently irks me, I will say about this manga, or if I had to pick a character that I think I really don't vibe with, I would have to say that's probably Sadara, and that's not due to the fact that it's Sakura's daughter. I know that you would be reason enough for most people out there, usually myself included. Maybe Gavin could agree with me on that one, but there's something about Sadara that like I can't take her seriously when I read this. And for starters, I personally think this is going to be a controversial topic, but you can at me on this. I personally think that Sadara's character is over-sexualized. And the reason I say that is because like I feel like there's a lot of you know how they show like a page like introducing the chapter, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll show like a pose or whatever. I got the vibe a lot of times that I'm like, whoa, how old's this chick? And like she just seems like highly sexualized, like in a lot of her poses, and like that inherently irks me because it's like you could tell she's a very young girl, and it's like from her dress to even like the collar around her neck, she's got like full lipstick on. Like I'm looking at one right now, it's like number 13, the value of a hidden ace, and she's with the chubby one. And like just in general, and you know what it was, and it made it hard for me to take her character very seriously. And like her shoes, don't even get me fucking started with the fucking shoes, because I'm like, how are you running around in those? Don't even tell me you're running around in like straight up high heels, like something a stripper would wear, bro. Like you're not doing it. Like don't even tell me, bro. Like that. And I think that was one character that it was like hard for me when she came on panel, and was like doing whatever she was doing. It's like I could get the fact that she's clearly very intelligent, right? She's Sasuke's child, and Sakura's no dummy. So she definitely has that going for her, and she's definitely inherently gifted with the fact that she has like the Sharingan and stuff like that, which apparently she just awakened. Cause fuck it. But yeah, like I don't know. There's something about her character, like when it comes on, and like she has these moments of like, I'm like really like badass or whatever, that it's like it's hard for me to get behind. Whereas like with some of the other characters, like it makes sense. But again, I feel like I'm probably just pulling from straws just to say something that I didn't fuck with. It's really not a huge thing. I just feel like I don't think
her character, or you don't like her character design.
I am not I would say a little bit of both. I mainly the design, I would say, is over the character itself, but I think the character itself just lends to like, you know what I mean? Like there's really not much that I'm like, I don't really care about her story, I guess. As far as it just seems like she's just there to fill the role of like the opposite of what Boruto needs to be to like keep him in place. And I think yeah, I don't know, but she's definitely a little more useful because of her Sharingan. But again, I would say it's the character design though that just inherently irked me. That's something that I would say kind of bothered me about the manga is that she in particular is like incredibly over sexualized. But I guess that's my hot controversial topic. You know what I mean for that. But I was just curious if there were any other people. I also guess I feel that like a lot the kids in the manga have definitely like their power level is like fucking retarded strong. Like they're like really strong if you're comparing them to like Naruto and stuff like that. Like for them to be able to take out that one guy recently, what was his name? The guy who's protecting Naruto
Boro.
Was that it? Yeah, Boro?
Yeah,
like,
Boro.
I was like, wow, like they're no joke, dude. Like they were,
I mean, to be fair, they had Kawaki, who it's been stated that he's not in the same league as the kids. And then we had, or not Boruto really, Momoshiki kind of just come up and whoop his ass. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as hard to buy because, again, I think something the anime actually does as another disservice is plays down like exactly where the kids should be at or are at in terms of like their power scaling. Especially these earlier a lot of the earlier chapters make an effort to disclose the fact that like the reason these kids, when they're in the fights that they're in, make it out either relatively unscathed or at the very least in one piece, is because of like their sense of like synergy and teamwork, but also because like they play it smart, right? They don't have the Naruto Sasuke thing where they can just balls to the wall at some nigga until like he drops because they have like 90 different superpowers at their disposal. So a lot of their fights again, if we want to pick one specifically, an example would be AoA. They have to play it smart, and like again, it usually comes down to the wire. Like if we're referencing the Boro fight, like they won that fight, but by no means did they win like what I mean, like as if it was nothing. They all almost died, and so I don't know. I think if anything, the anime does a disservice to their power scaling instead of the other way around.
I agree with both of you. In fact, I really like the synergy that they needed and was required to get past these fights and surpass their own limits. What did bother me, though, with their power scaling was more with Boruto in terms of, let's teach you the Rasengan, and bam, like within a day, this bitch had it on pat, and they even referenced it. They're like, yeah, no, it's going to take you a while. Like Naruto, it took like 6 months and like a whole bunch of, fucking literally beating the fuck out of himself to do it. And in this, I was like, and they're like, all right, Boruto, you want to learn Rasengan? And I was like, oh, sweet, training montage, here we go. And it's like, bam, by like sunset and day rise, he had that shit down pat. And granted, it wasn't like the most spectacular thing. Like, it's just a tiny little Rasengan, but it's like, oh, now you somehow managed to make it disappear and reappear, but you really don't know what you did, and, you're just kind of rolling with it. But I feel like they kind of just gave them their power. Like, it didn't feel as earned as it was with Naruto and Sasuke.
I think that's what I was saying. Yeah. That's probably a better
like
way
it was a little lacking. So I'm like, oh, all right. Like, you're like, even if you're prodigies, like, I just felt like it. Literally, Naruto, you saw his growth and development, and literally just you saw him have to get to the lowest of low to then achieve something that brought him back as a person. And with Boruto, it's like he didn't, with the fights in a later date, yes, he was at the lowest of the low and they had to learn. But in terms of like training to get like the fundamental skills needed, it felt very lacking, where it's like, oh, they already know everything. And it's like, all right, but at this age, way back when Naruto was around, like, it wasn't relevant, you know? It just took so much time and so much grinding and so much work, and it feels like they just kind of gave them to the kids, you know? They're like, oh, it's Naruto's kid. He inherently has this power. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but I feel like you just needed to work for it a little bit more. Whether that was just to get the story, like, up and running and, all right, like, let's get to dope fights and whatever. I can see that, but I felt like they didn't earn it, you know? And that's kind of what I was yearning for, was
I don't think
that development.
I don't think that the point is for them to earn like those base skills, right? Because if you think about it, like with Boruto learning the Rasengan is not what's going to separate Boruto apart from like Naruto, right? Because Naruto can do that and he can do it 90 fucking ways and 9 all at once.
Yeah.
Right. So Boruto learning the Rasengan is essentially step one. What Boruto ends up doing and altering that into is what like his, you know, I guess if you want to, what you're talking about, like that's going to be his struggle, is learning how to utilize it in a different way. But again, this isn't the story of like Naruto and his friends, where it's like a lot of what they had to learn was sort of from scraps, and so learning and training and picking all this stuff up was that much more of a struggle. There's so many more resources available in Boruto's time period, but also this time, like it's not the same story. This isn't a story about an underdog who has no natural talent and is learning to rise through the ranks and overcome the odds. It's just a different world where these kids, quite frankly, can learn. I mean, because it's not even something you see in Boruto or Satoru. You see it in all the students. They can literally have access to train with their parents who have mastered these jutsu, like essentially as much as they want. So I don't think it's a stretch necessarily to ascertain that. Like,
I think.
Hold on. Before to get a certain point, don't forget Naruto trained with Jiraiya, who also knew how to use I wouldn't even say it's a resource thing, because Naruto still had the resources to learn it. It's just that doesn't, just because you have you have people who know how to teach you and teach you properly, that doesn't mean you're going to learn it faster. You still have to grind for it, and you still have to work for it to get the fundamentals down. And Naruto, again, knew someone, Jiraiya, who was his teacher, and, you know, also gave him the same materials that Boruto was given, more or less, to learn these skills. And he had it literally overnight, compared to Naruto, which had the same skills and same people who knew knowledge in it and didn't.
Can't use Rasengan to the same degree that Naruto could when he quote unquote learned it. Also, if we're comparing Naruto and Boruto, they are literally two different ones, not to the same degree that Naruto
not to the same degree. But even then, like with the training, with here's a balloon. Like, well, even then they're like, oh, here's a balloon, pop it. That took Naruto so freaking long. Boruto literally in one sequence.
I think we're going off course here, because there's definitely things that are right from both. Boruto is not Naruto, so again, there is a semblance of believability when it comes to the fact that he could and did learn the things he did faster, because quite frankly he just seems more intelligent than Naruto, and just clearly more gifted. So that's definitely believable in that sense. But I don't like to chalk it up to the thing to the argument that it's like, okay, this is just a different story, so this is just believable. They do have more resources, so it does make sense. You know, like we're in 2020 right now. There's a lot more things at our disposal in order for us and tools to learn than there were for people back in the day. But I do feel like the idea of human struggle is universal and timeless. So I don't feel like it's enough of an excuse to just say that, okay, because of the time period and who they are and where they live in now, it just makes sense that they're as powerful as they are, as quickly as they are. So I think that's what I guess inherently kind of pulled me back from some of the other, you know, some of the characters, because it's not exclusive to Boruto. It seems like a lot of the characters are grossly powerful. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not like, it's all right. Like, it is what it is. Cause again, we're cutting it. We're cutting the fat. We're trimming the fat off this fucking thing. So it's like we're jumping right into it. From the way it seems, we don't really have time to go through a training montage right now. But I guess I was just saying that's something that generally I, as a viewer or reader, enjoy is seeing that come up. You know what I mean? And like, you know, like one of my favorite things in the Naruto anime, not, again, I know they're different characters, but just as an example, I loved the whole training thing when Kakashi had him use his shadow clones to like master, you know, the to master whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was, but he was like, but it was like this whole like episode or a couple episodes where like Naruto was going like ham as shit like in that training. And again, I know that like, you know, Boruto's a different person, but I think that that idea of like that it takes human struggle to achieve the things that you have, I think makes it that much more rewarding when those things are used like in fights, like when Naruto and Sasuke in the anime in Boruto fight Momoshiki, right? Like when they used the attack patterns that they did against him, it was like awesome because it was harkening back to like, you know, that it took them like blood, sweat, and tears to like perfect those things, right? Like between, you know, Naruto's like Rasen Shuriken and Sasuke's fucking Renegon ability, right, where he like swaps places and like they're you know, I feel like that, I think, is what I was harkening back to, you know, to kind of tie it all up into a knot where it's like I appreciated those things when they were used, whereas I guess in Boruto, because the story is so fast-paced, I didn't really have time to appreciate the synergy that they had because I didn't see them like work for that synergy. It just was inherently already there because these kids are like immensely talented. Which, you know, has its ups and downs. So
yeah, no, I agree with that.
I think there's valid points all around though. And that's not to say that I disliked it because like, just because they're stupid talented doesn't mean that the fights aren't pretty freaking awesome. And their jutsu is pretty sick too. You know, and it's cool how they use it as a team, but, yo, can we talk about some of the funny shit in this? Yo, that one scene where, Konohamaru had he went to the blimp that went down, and my man pulls a fucking flash drive out of a scroll.
Yo.
Dude, I was crying. I'm like, what? I'm like, why did you need the scroll? I'm like, dude, I was dying. I thought that shit was hysterical. Or like when Boruto gets the like essentially a lightsaber and it's like a chakra blade, and I'm like, bruh, this is like some high tech shit.
I loved how they integrated that chakra sword into that fight with AO or however the fuck you want to say his name, where they were like, oh, it drains or with the whole scientist guy, they're like, yeah, it's a really dope sword, but the problem is it depletes your shit like almost instantly, like super fast. And it was like when you saw him fight in that sequence and he brought out the sword, you're just like, oh shit, no, like this is gonna happen, like if you miss, like you fucked up. And he missed, and I was literally like punching my like fucking pillow, and I was like, no, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? And they're like, haha, no, like it's shadow clone, and it was like to trick him into grabbing it to deplete his own chakra. Like I fucking love that shit, dude. I was like, this is what I like came here to read, you know, like keep on feeding me this shit to just throw me in a loop and to like kind of turn everything on its head. I thought that was fucking dope.
That part threw me for a loop too. I'm not gonna lie, I thought he straight up fucked up and they were gonna like, do something, and then when they did that, I was like, that's cool. That's what I'm saying, like their synergy as a unit, it's like it's pretty cool how they incorporate their abilities together in order to come to a head and make themselves much more powerful as a group rather than just the individual. So that is something I definitely appreciate. And I do like the implication of, I like how the scientific ninja tools, or just like cybernetic enhancements play a pretty key role in this. And it is funny, we were talking about this the other day where it was like, where we were like, it's ironic where it's like they have all these crazy advanced gadgets, but like they don't have like a cell phone or something, like something stupid, you know?
Yeah, it's like they're emailing and they literally have like a ghetto like Nintendo Switch and they're playing games and shit, and it's like they're like so advanced, but yeah, like they're living in like dirt huts and shit. Or, I mean, they're not literally, but you know, it's like it's like that. I don't know. It's really cool when you get that play on the timelines where it's like, oh, you're super advanced, but then in other places they're very lacking, and it's like, well, is that made up by just people's like people's abilities or what. I don't know, but it definitely like kind of just makes it comical, you know? Like it's just funny. I like it a lot.
For sure. And I would think, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I thought it was interesting. I didn't even realize until I was done reading it that this actually is a different writer than that wrote Naruto. It's a guy, Ukio Kodachi is the writer for this. And Mihiko Ikimoto is the graphic illustrator. Apologies for that fucking butchering of those names. I'm ignorant, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting point because I actually didn't realize that until I was done reading it. I looked at the page on my computer and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even realize the whole time that this is a completely different writer, you know, which was interesting, you know, because you see small little nuances between, you know, this and the Naruto story. Again, they're different stories, but I thought that was just an interesting thing to bring up. But yeah, I don't know. I would say I liked it. It was pretty good. I'm excited for more. I'm excited to get see the motivations and identities of a lot of these characters revealed and what their real intentions are. But if you guys had to say anything else, do you guys have any closing remarks? And what would you give or rate the manga 1 out of 10? So Gavin, I'll start with you. Any closing remarks, and then what's your ranking?
Closing remarks. My favorite part was when Momoshiki and friends, they barged in on the Chunin exam and fucking they were about to go balls out, and then Shikamaru from the stands pulls out his shadow jutsu and like locks him into place, and then like Momoshiki looks over and they're like, what the fuck is happening, like what's going on? And they have that dope just shot of like Shikamaru just standing there like on like the chairs, and he's just like totally focused in on him, and you're just like I was literally punching my pillow. I was like, yes, I fucking love this guy. Like this is what punching I need, dude. Oh my god, I literally need a new bed after reading that shit. Like I was literally punching everything. And it's weird because I feel like I'm more like enthralled reading it than the anime. Like I just feel like I needed to put it down, let out my like anger and excitement, and then I got back reading. That was my favorite fucking like. I just loved that scene. I don't know why. My boy Shikamaru is still repping it hard. If I had to rate it from 1 to 10, I am actually a really big fan of this right now. I'd give it a solid 9.5. At the point we're at right now.
Interesting. High rating.
Yeah.
High rating.
Yeah.
Really
I really, really, really fucked with it, and I'm upset that I need to wait 30 fucking days until the next chapter comes out. Like, I'm literally just gonna show up at that doorstep and just piss all over it because I need more. Like, I don't care, dude. Wow. Give me more. Release 2 chapters a week. I don't care if you need to like beat kids in a sweatshop to make it happen. Like, I want it.
I
Such an asshole, dude. Door.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. These people work very hard, and I thank you for your service. And you know, don't live a good life as you're writing this shit. But I just want more.
I hear you. Damn, Isaiah. Any closing? I mean, we all know that you like it heavy. Obviously, we all like it. But any closing remarks? And what your unbiased, honest opinion? What would you rate this 1 out of 10?
Well, I think if I had to pick something that I just like the characters. I think this story is so much has the benefit of like already being involved in a world that's so established that like we don't necessarily, not that like the world should be ignored or its rules should be like played with or paid attention to, but like this story is such a great character story, like for Boruto's generation specifically, and like it's not, for me, it's fun to see all the little playoffs and payoffs from the world that they live in, because that world's already established, and because like, you know, I and anybody who is a fan of Naruto knows those rules and that this world so well, but like, you know, rules are made to be broken. So it's like getting to see those things that I love about Naruto's world and those characters, but also seeing those things change and evolve, right? Like even just the scientific ninja tools are a perfect example. For the longest time, you know, if you weren't a Jinchuriki or if you weren't, you know, an Uchiha, your chakra source, like that was it, right? If you, the main like caveat to like being in a fight in Naruto is like making sure you have enough chakra to last the length of a fight. But like scientific ninja tools literally completely revolutionize how ninja can fight, and it's like that's such a cool addition within the world that makes sense, and it causes the world to change and turn into this great like new thing. So I'm excited to see like how different this world like gets from where it is now, because obviously like it's still got fucking a ways to go.
A long time.
If I had to, I mean, yeah, biased, it's a 10 out of 10. But if I had to give it my unbiased rating, I mean, like a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's just such a well fucking put together book. I like, the characters are great. There's never been a chapter that like I felt like I wanted to skip through, where I was like, all right, let's get to the good, like,
Yep.
like, cause like every chapter, even if like the stuff that was going on wasn't like some nigga's head getting ripped off or something, it was like much needed levity, or it was a moment that like two characters can just sort of like sit in a room and be like, yo, what the fuck's going on? And it's like, yeah, what the fuck is going on? We've been like fucking, fighting with these Otsutsuki niggas for like, let's just like take a, like, everything just works. I think the story is written so well, and again, I will chalk this up to the fact that it's a monthly run manga and not a weekly one. Everything is just so well put together, and clearly there's so much thought and care put together into all the moments that like happen, and it works. It's one of the manga I'm probably reading 3 manga right now as like at current date. One of the ones that I'm always like anxiously awaiting, like every month. Like I'm like, right, like the day it comes out, I'm reading day 1. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking about it and like watching theory video, because I'm in.
Awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool, man. Yeah, I think it is cool. I guess one of the things I would piggyback, if I had some closing thoughts off of what you were saying, I do really appreciate the scientific ninja tool thing in this story, because not only does it give us new way that ninja are evolving, but it's almost like a forced adaptation too, because it's like, if you can't use these in some way, shape, or form, like, you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. And especially when like almost every character somehow in this show has an ability to absorb ninjutsu, it just really makes ninjutsu seem like really shitty right now. I swear to God, like 90% of like the main characters can absorb jutsu in some way or another. From like, dude, where the fuck is Rock Lee when you need him, dude? Yeah. Like, he would be whooping ass.
The one character who was literally created for the situation in this world, and he's not even relevant.
Talk about being born in the wrong time, huh? He was really just born in the wrong generation, dude. Because it was like, it's funny because if he was born sooner in the world, right, you'd think that like, I guess ninjutsu isn't as established and like more people relied on taijutsu or something, right? At least that would be the thought. So it's like, okay, he's probably at an advantage, but he's also at an advantage in the future in a sense where it's like these scientific ninja tools make it so you don't even need to know ninjutsu, first of all, and second of all, again, with half the people able to absorb it anyway, it's like almost irrelevant. So it's like, damn, Rock Lee would have been busted if he was here, but I couldn't help thinking that. But I think that was really cool, and something that I enjoyed seeing in the evolution of fighting. I really like Kawaki's as a character. I think he's really cool.
Oh, he's fucking dope.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's really
amazing.
sick. I like a lot of these characters and newly introduced characters. I really fuck with Koji. Jigen is really badass. Like when he comes on scene, I'm like, oh shit. Like you that song
dude.
plays, it's like, oh shit. Like when he comes up, when he teleported to the karma mark, I was like, boy. I was like, somebody's fucked. So that was really cool. It's really cool to see Naruto, obviously, especially because Sasuke takes a little more of a back seat. He's not in as many frames. Obviously, Naruto takes a more front seat, but it's really cool to see him just as an adult and like how he conducts himself, and he's still kind of like the same goofy idiot. But he's got a lot of words of wisdom, and it's really cool to like actually see him be able to bestow that love onto everyone that he was gypped of when he was younger. It's really heartwarming to see. And again, a lot of the lessons do stay true. I enjoy that, and I really enjoy the people's character motivations and like the little plot twists that you get, you know what I mean, throughout it. So I do enjoy that. I would probably give the manga a 8 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's a perfect score because, as we established before, at least I said, again, conjecture and opinion, I do think there are some things that, can be maybe a little more fleshed out, and, some things are just kind of just left for you to have faith in and believe, which is fine. A lot of people do that, but it would be cool to see some of those. And, but beyond that, I mean, like, the writing's very good. The characters are likable for all the reasons I said for the most part. And I fucked with it. I'm pretty excited to see more of it. So I'm glad that we read it. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today. That was a fun episode. It was a little longer, but honestly, I thought that it was thought-provoking and good conversation through and through, to be honest. There was never a point in this conversation where I felt like I was grasping for things to say. It was like I could talk about this for a while, and I'm sure you guys felt the same way. So I'm very happy that we read this, and I'm happy to read more manga, and I'm happy to read more Boruto when that drops, and to talk about it again. But let us know what you guys thought, because this is a kind of a first for us as far as like a manga review, quote unquote. We've talked about manga as compared to anime before, but this will be the first time that we've actually all read through the same manga and then discussed it, in our thoughts, and took a deep dive.
Also,
so
I guess
let us know if you prefer it.
If like how you want us to do this in the future. Like if you want us to do like maybe we review like 3 newest chapters of 3 different manga that we've all read, or like we like whatever. I don't know, because there's a couple different ways that we could go about this, but I don't know, this was fun.
Yeah,
was
for
cool.
Sure. Let us know your thoughts, and any manga that you really mess with, and we could do our due diligence in checking it out. And just so let us know your thoughts. Be a part of the conversation. Did you read Boruto? Did you like Boruto? Are there things that you would have changed? Are there characters you like? Do you agree with our sentiments? Do you disagree? Etc. Let us know in the comments below if you're on YouTube or you're on any platform that lets you comment. But yeah, you guys know the drill. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're liking, commenting, sharing, hitting the notification bell, commenting, all that kind of jazz. I think I said commenting twice. If you're on another platform, make sure you guys are throwing a follow. If you don't have us on the social media yet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, make sure you guys are following us on there so you know what's going on, the latest and greatest in the lives of the apostles of anime. Be a part of that conversation. That was the most important thing. But until next time, we are signing off, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Hey folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our new episodes.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AoA Podcast if you want to keep up with our content or suggest new ideas for the show.
You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week to talk about all things anime.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls.